Jaipur. It was 4 in the morning. Jaipur was doing that thing it only did before dawn, holding its breath. The city that was never truly silent had somehow found a pause, a fragile, stolen stillness that felt almost sacred. And into that stillness, without warning, came the rain. Not heavy, not dramatic. Just present. The way certain feelings are. The ones you don't notice arriving until they're already sitting inside your chest, making themselves at home. Ira's eyes opened. No sharp gasp, no sudden jolt. She simply woke, as if sleep had made a quiet, personal decision to leave her, knowing she had things to feel that couldn't be felt while dreaming. For a long moment, she didn't move. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling, and the ceiling stared back with the same blank indifference she had been receiving from the world lately. From him lately. The thoughts didn't arrive politely. They never did, not at 4 a.m. They came the way grief comes, crowding, overlapping, refusing to wait their turn. One memory bleeding into the next before she could properly mourn the first. Her fingers found the duvet beneath her and curled into it. Not for warmth. For something to hold, something that wouldn't pull away, something that would stay exactly where she left it. God, when had she started needing that from a blanket? I was never a happy wife. Mira's voice returned. Not loud, not dramatic, just there, the way a bruise is there. You forget about it, and then something brushes against it, and the ache comes back, specific and sharp and entirely personal. Ira closed her eyes. She had been trying, since yesterday, to put Mira's words somewhere manageable, to fold them neatly and tuck them away. But they wouldn't fold. They kept opening back up, spreading across the inside of her mind like ink dropped in water, slow, unstoppable, changing everything they touched. I was never a happy wife. And the worst part, the part that made Ira's throat tighten until it hurt, wasn't the words themselves. It was that she understood them. Not from experience. From recognition. Because she could see it. She could already see what that life looked like. The version where you share a name with someone, share a home, share a last name on formal documents, and still feel like a stranger sitting across from them at breakfast. A breath left her, slow, shaking slightly at the edges. At least, the words barely made it out. She wasn't even sure she intended to speak. At least he fulfilled his responsibilities. The ceiling didn't respond. The rain did, softly, against the glass. Aariv. His name felt different tonight. Heavier somehow, even though it was only 2 syllables. Even though she had said it 100 times. Tonight it sat differently in her mouth, closer to an ache than a word. He doesn't even see me. She said it to no one. To the dark room. To the ceiling. To herself, and that was the most painful audience of all, because she couldn't lie to herself. Not at 4 a.m., not with the rain outside doing whatever it wanted, falling wherever it wanted, answering to nothing. Forget being his fiancé. A small, hollow sound escaped her. Not quite a laugh, not quite a cry. Something in between the sound a person makes when the truth arrives, and it's somehow both a surprise and not a surprise at all. He doesn't even treat me like I exist. Her soft whisper faded in the room. There it was. The sentence she had been circling for weeks, careful never to land on it directly, because somehow not saying it kept it from being entirely real. But now it was out, sitting in the air of this quiet room in Jaipur, real and specific and hers. She had thought that saying it would make her cry. Instead, it just made her tired. The kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. She sat up. Slowly, like her own body was something fragile, she didn't want to disturb it too suddenly. Her hair fell around her face. She didn't push it back. The room felt both too small and too empty at once, a specific kind of loneliness that only reveals itself in the dark, when there's nothing left to distract you from it. She needed air. Or distance. Or something she didn't have a name for yet. Her feet touched the cold floor, and she welcomed it. That sharp, grounding chill against her skin, The one thing in the room that was honest with her about what it was. She walked to the window. The glass was cool, scattered with raindrops that moved in slow, wandering paths downward, unhurried, certain of gravity if nothing else, trusting something she currently could not. Ira stood there and looked out. But she wasn't seeing Jaipur. She was seeing his eyes. Hazel. Still. The kind of eyes that watch without giving anything back. Eyes that could be in the same room as you, trained directly on you, and still make you feel like you're standing on the other side of a wall of glass, visible but unreachable, present but untouched. She had spent so much time trying to read those eyes, trying to find the moment they would soften, trying to catch him off guard, catch some unguarded flicker that said, "I see you, Ira. I actually see you." She never did. Her hand rose without her permission, fingertips pressing gently against the cold glass. She traced the path of a raindrop as it slid downward, following it until it disappeared, until there was nothing left to follow. Just like that. "I wish." Her voice came out smaller than she intended, smaller than she was comfortable with. The voice of someone who had been strong for too long and was only now, in the 4 a.m. dark, allowing herself the cost of it. "I could forget." A pause, the rain filled it. About yesterday, about him, all of it. But even as she said it, she knew. She knew. Because the awful, inconvenient, entirely unfair truth was this: you don't wish to forget things that haven't already meant something. You don't lie awake at 4 a.m. aching over indifference you don't care about. She cared. That was the whole problem. She cared about a man who looked through her. She cared about someone who had never once, not even for a moment, looked at her the way she looked at him, like she was something worth looking at. Her hand dropped from the glass. The question came then, not gently, it didn't ask permission. Am I ready for this? A life built in the margins of someone else's silence. Mornings across a breakfast table from someone who had already left the room in every way that mattered, even while sitting right there. Waiting not for love, not even for affection, just for acknowledgement, just to be seen, just once. Is that the life I am about to choose? Her chest tightened around the question, around the answer she already knew but wasn't ready to say. She turned from the window. The room held her quietly. She picked up her phone from the nightstand, not because she intended to, just because her hands needed something to do, something to be useful. The screen lit up, and the notifications hit her all at once. Bye, missed call, missed call, missed call again. Isha, missed call, 3 of them. She pressed her lips together. Because those names, those repeated stubborn calls that said, "We noticed you were gone, we noticed you went quiet, we are not going to pretend we didn't," that was love. Real, loud, inconvenient love. The kind that didn't wait to be asked. The kind she had been so desperate to find somewhere else. Her eyes moved down the screen. And stopped. One message. From him. Her thumb hovered over it without touching it, as if the words inside might change if she looked too directly. She looked. "I am coming to get you. Aariv." 5 words. That was all. 5 words, and her entire body responded before her mind had even finished reading them. Her heart stuttering into something faster and less controlled. Her breath catching somewhere in the middle of the exhale. Her grip tightening around the phone like it might be taken from her. "I am coming to get you." She read it again. And again. Looking for the version of it that made sense. The version that was just obligation, just duty, just another responsibility he was checking off a list. The version she could dismiss. But the words wouldn't arrange themselves into anything dismissible. They just stayed exactly as they were. It was a message from yesterday. Time was 8:30 p.m. She remembers that after 8 p.m. she tossed her phone aside. Certain, unambiguous, decided. "What does that even mean?" she whispered. Her voice cracked on the last word, and she hated herself for it, hated how much a single message, 5 words, from a man who had never once made her feel chosen, could undo her like this? Was it a command? Was it obligation speaking, the same obligation that had always driven him? Or, she stopped herself. She stopped the thought before it fully formed because hope was the most dangerous thing inside her right now, and she knew it. She had learned it. Hope was what made the indifference hurt so much more than it should. And yet, her eyes dropped back to the screen. I am coming to get you. Not, you should come. Not cold logistics delivered without punctuation. I am coming to get you. Something shifted inside her. Not hope, she wouldn't call it hope. But movement. A tectonic, slow, terrifying kind of shift, deep under the surface of everything she had decided to feel, and not feel and protect herself from. Because whether she was ready or not, whether she had prepared herself or not, he had decided yesterday to come. But why? And she was standing at a window in Jaipur at 4 a.m, in the rain, holding a phone to her chest now. She hadn't realized she'd done it, holding it like it was something more than glass and metal. Holding it like it was the first time in a long time something had come toward her instead of away. Her mind now full of questions. Has she misunderstood something? The rain continued. Unhurried. Falling exactly where it was always going to fall. But wasn't he too late already? Too late to acknowledge. Ira shook her head. A small, sharp motion, like she was physically throwing the thought out before it could settle. No. She couldn't do this. Couldn't stand here in the dark reading 5 words over and over like they were scripture. Couldn't let herself build something fragile and hopeful out of a text message from a man who had never once given her a reason to hope. She needed to stop. She needed air that didn't smell like this hotel room. She needed the familiar weight of her own home, the sounds of it, the smell of it. Ma's voice carried from the kitchen, Papa's newspaper rustling. Isha is stealing her dupatta without asking and somehow making it look better. Her daddy saw's strict yet caring voice. Her dada saw's care. She needs her best friend, Varsha. Jaisalmer. She needed Jaisalmer. She needed to go home. The decision landed with a quiet finality that felt like the first solid thing she'd touched all night. She set the phone face down on the nightstand, deliberately, carefully, like she was putting distance between herself and his message then no longer needed, and ignored the tiny, treacherous flutter that moved through the pit of her stomach as she did. Ignored it completely. It meant nothing. She picked the phone back up only because she needed to make a call. That was all. Rishabh's name was already at the top of her recent calls. Her thumb pressed it before she could second-guess herself, and she stood in the center of the quiet room, listening to it ring. Once. Twice. Thorough. He picked up on the second ring, and the sound of his voice, slightly breathless, thick with something that had clearly been awake long before she called, made her eyes sting immediately. Uro, is everything all right? Are you hurt? He didn't pause between the questions. They tumbled out one after another, the way Rishabh always spoke when he was frightened, as if slowing down might let the worst version of reality catch up to him. She could hear it underneath the words, that particular fear that only exists in people who love without condition or calculation. The fear that has no pride in it, no pretense, just raw, unfiltered terror at the possibility of something being wrong with someone they cannot imagine the world without. Ira, say something. Her eyes filled. She hadn't expected it. She had been so focused on the decision, on being practical, on going home, and then his voice arrived, and just like that, everything she had been holding together came slightly apart at the seams. This was love. Not the kind that kept score. Not the kind that arrived in cold, ambiguous text messages that you spent 20 minutes trying to understand. This was the kind that picked up your call no matter what. The kind that asks if you are hurt before it asks anything else. The kind that carried fear openly, unashamedly, because caring too much had never once embarrassed Rishabh. Isha was the same way. She always called. Always. If Ira went even slightly quiet for an hour, her phone would light up with Isha's and Varsha's names. No grand reason, no dramatic declaration, just, "You seemed off, I noticed, I'm here." As if noticing was the most natural thing in the world. As if paying attention to someone you loved was simply what you did. Her family understood each other without instructions. They acknowledged each other without being asked. They showed up. And Aariv? Her jaw tightened slightly. Aariv understood politics. He understood leverage and optics and the precise temperature of a room full of people with competing agendas. He understood how to walk into a space and own it without saying a word. He understood profit and strategy and the particular art of keeping people exactly as close or as far as served his purpose. After all, he is a politician. But this specific thing, this caring love, this "are you hurt before anything else," this language was entirely foreign to him, and maybe it always would be. And she could not spend her life translating herself into something he might someday understand. Or will never understand. No. She needed distance. She needed home. "Ira, you're scaring me. Say something, I'm coming to your room." She heard it, the shift in his voice from worried to moving. The rustle of sheets, the quick footsteps, the sound of someone who had already decided that if she wasn't going to answer him, he was going to come find her himself. A sound escaped her that was almost a laugh, soft, waterlogged. Her throat was tight, but her lips curved. Of course, he was already running. She pressed her fingers to her eyes for just a moment, steadying herself, and then cleared her throat. "Bye." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, lower, with a slight fracture running through the middle of it that she couldn't entirely smooth over. "I'm okay." A breath, then quieter. Can we go home? I miss Ma and Isha and Papa, Dadu and Daddy saw." The words came out even softer at the end, each name landing like something precious and aching, like she was counting them, holding them, reassuring herself that they were still there waiting for her on the other side of this night. Silence from the other end. Not the silence of indifference. The silence of a brother absorbing his sister, reading between every word she hadn't said. Then a knock. Soft, certain. She already knew. She cut the call, set the phone down and crossed the room, opened the door. And every carefully constructed thought in her head stopped. The living room of the suite stretched out before her, dim and hushed in the early morning quiet. And standing in it, not in the doorway where she'd expected her brother, was him. Aariv. Ira's breath left her body entirely. Her hand flew to her chest on its own, a reflex, a small helpless act of self-protection that her body initiated before her mind had fully processed what her eyes were seeing. He wasn't supposed to be here. He wasn't supposed to be here, in her suit, in this living room, in this specific moment that she had already designated as hers. Her retreat. Her decision. Her quiet, dignified exit toward home and sanity, and people who loved her in languages she understood. He was supposed to be a text message she was learning to put down. He was not supposed to be standing in front of her. But there he was. Still, unhurried. In the way that was uniquely, specifically, infuriatingly him, as if the world arranged itself around his stillness rather than the other way around. Those eyes found hers immediately. Hazel, unreadable, and yet, something in them. Something she couldn't name, and refused to look at long enough to try. Her lips parted. The word came out barely above a breath, stripped of everything except the single, disbelieving truth of it. "Aariv. Going somewhere, little bird."